Hi, this is B from Sorcery Soap, and today I'm going to show you how to make soap cookies that look like cookies. Well, sorta. So, and then I'll show you how to mix this color too, so that you can get the base of your soap cookie to look a little bit more cookie-like. So these are supposed to be sugar cookies. I did not paint these, and I thought about it, and then I thought, you know, I just kind of like them the way they are. I like the buttery color of the soap dough right here. But I'll show you how to make these too. And I have another video for sprinkles if you're interested in that. So let's put these away. So getting the color right is kind of important, I think. So sugar cookies are a butter-based dough. So they have sort of a yellow hint to them. So I put a little bit of gold in it. Now, if you're going to make chocolate chip cookies, which I have a picture of, maybe I'll see if I can fit it in here. Those I made with gold, and the predominant color is gold, and then I added white to it. And that just takes a little bit of mixing. So I did this like that, and then I think I even have a piece of it somewhere around here that I did yesterday. Oh well, I can't find it. And I thought this wasn't quite right. Like you can see, it's really white. And it takes a minute to get it all mixed up, but there. Okay, so I put a little bit of yellow in because it is a buttery base. This might be too much, but we'll see. And if this is too much, then I just add a little bit more white to smooth it out a bit. So you can see the color starting to come around. And it does take a minute to get it mixed in. So I show you how to make small amounts of things. And if you like the idea, then you can always scale it up. But that you're going to have to figure out. So let's say you're going to make 100 of these cookies. Personally, I would just mix this color uniquely as much as I could sit and mix. And then, I don't know how many 100 soap cookies, maybe a pound of soap dough would make 100 cookies. Okay, so let's compare to what I made yesterday. That's almost close right there, right? Maybe, like I said, a little bit too much yellow. So I can add some more white to that because that is just a little bit too yellow. But it's still okay. And so when you mix combined soap doughs, you want to mix them up first like this. Soften them before you combine them, because otherwise the bits of color will stick in there and you won't be able to mix that in. And you'll see little bits of color. That's starting to look a little bit more dough-like, I think. Yeah, that looks good. We're going to go with that color. So the other thing I noticed here, let's compare that. Do I have a fuzz in there? No. Okay, let's compare this. That's pretty darn close right there. Maybe just a tick more gold in here. I'm going to go with it. I like it. I think it's fine. So I don't know if you've noticed this before. I have, and it's just a subtle little difference. So let's say I mix my color and I have a color in mind that I think I'm getting close to. And well, this is what I've done. So then I'm like, I can't really tell if that's the color I'm looking for or not. So if I don't have something to compare it to like this, you can kind of see it's not quite exactly, but I think it's close enough. So then I'll wrap it up and then walk away from it and come back to it. And oftentimes if I question myself about it, I come back to it and I'm like, oh, I could see exactly the difference, because our mind tells us about color as much as our eyes do. Well, maybe more so probably, but anyway, I've seen that happen many times too, where I was fiddling with the color and go, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm just going to roll it out under plastic because it makes it a lot less tricky. Okay. So I just try to imagine, I don't know if you've never made cookies in general, I think that it might be a little bit more difficult, so you want to look at pictures of different cookies. But if you have made cookies, then you know about how thick the cookie should be. And I had a little fuzz there. You can see it. The world is fuzzy. It's a linty place. I don't want lint specks in my cookies. Okay. You can see there's a little piece of yellow there that didn't get mixed in. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal actually, but you can see what I mean by if you don't mix the soap dough thoroughly before, like just mash it around before you start to mix the two colors. There. You can feel how. Okay, so I use, of course, the Ateco, and I'm using these two. This one's going to be for frosting, and this one's going to be for this. Now, you can pipe frosting on. I didn't want to be bothered, so this is the way I'm doing it. So there's that, and I can only get one out of here, so I'll show you how that works. And then it'll give me time to do the other. Okay. So it's still pretty soft, right? So I have my magic toothbrush. You can see there's soap in there from what I did last night. This toothbrush is just the perfect toothbrush for cookie stuff or soap stuff. And I haven't been able to find another one. But anyway, it's a pretty inexpensive toothbrush too. It's like a Colgate, whatever, like a couple bucks. And I use it to do this, and I also use it to clean out my extruders. So it's pretty soft, so it'll take a lot of dinging, right? And we're going to straighten it all out when we're done. So the other thing I do is like kind of mess the corners up, because it's like you want it to look like it does when it gets baked. And they're not exactly perfectly round. There. So that'll do. And then just pat them down. So make sure I get that back up. So we're going to cover the top with frosting, so it won't matter. Now I don't know how you're going to use your soap cookies, but I like to use them for samples and treats and orders and things like that. Like just something to be delighted with, you know, and you go, oh, this is what's possible with soap. Okay, so you can see it's not perfect, which is ideal because we don't want it to be perfect. And actually I could leave it just like this if I wanted to. So let's leave that there. Okay, so here's the other thing I wanted to show you. So these are the toppers, right? And these could be made, these could go on top of a soap, which I might actually do because I think they're kind of fun. So it was, I was looking at I like things to look as authentic as they can, right? And so I was looking at the pieces that were on cookies, and there's this sprinkle stuff that's like on top of cookies. And I thought, well, I could do that with an extruder. Let's see here. So I've extruded some pieces over here. These right here. But what happens if I do that, and then I just cut them and leave them, right? They're kind of hard, and they're too sharp, I think. And I wasn't too happy with that. So I softened them a bit with my fingers. Yes, I did each one of these by softening with my fingers. Now, these might be a bit too hard. Maybe I get into the center of them here. I've let these set for a while. I'm probably going to use them inside of a soap since they're hard. Oh, no, that one's all right. So that's how I did it. So I chatted with some friends yesterday, and then I just sat and made these. So, you know, all this stuff takes time if you're interested in it. It just does. But once you do it, like, you know, now I have all these, and I can put these on top of a soap, and they're really cool and fun. And it doesn't take much but to extrude a color, and then sit and squish them. So, you know, some stuff like making the lazy dog or the lazy puppy, or, you know, doing some bunnies and stuff, that takes a lot of focus and time, and it's all very fiddly. But this kind of stuff you can just do while you're watching TV or listening to a podcast or something. And then you have all these. So, you know, we don't make soap 24 hours a day. I mean, there's some downtime we have. And if you're like me, like, I don't know, almost for many years, I can't say every year, but for many years I made a quilt in the winter, at least one. And that was what I did. And so that every year I could give at least one crocheted quilt away. Now, granted, you know, not everybody's in for that kind of thing, but it kept my hands busy, and I could sit and watch TV, and I didn't have my head in a book. And, you know, I grew up with the idea that you just don't have idle time. You know, if you have time to sit still, especially in the winter, that you should be mending clothes, or you should be, you know, making something or doing something. And see, I'm sitting here talking to you, and look how much of this I got done. So I think it took me a couple hours to do those, but who knows? You know, I used to do embroidery too, and that's kind of gone out of fashion somewhat. But as a kid, you know, needlework and embroidery and things like that, you just did, and you gave to your aunts or your gram or whatever. But it was just a matter of practice so that you were good with handicrafts. And you know, you want that eye-hand coordination. And if you're not skilled at music, piano, whatnot, you might not get that. So, I mean, that's essentially what the games were about, like Light Bright and things like that, and connecting all the pieces, colors, and things like that. So they just squish right down. See? I just squish them right down. Okay, so you get the general idea about this, right? Okay, so we got that. That's like, all these are the same. And these are 2 days. They've been sitting here curing for 2 days. So it's not like if you decided to do this, like you could get halfway through the project and then get on to something else if you just didn't want to sit here and do this. Now, they'll start getting harder, and it'll be harder to squish them like that, you know. But if you do it right after you've extruded them, they're not going to have this shape. They're going to be much flatter, just like regular soap dough. You know, you extrude it even though there's a shape if you squeeze it. So, so there's that. You got to let them dry for a bit. Not cured, but dry. So they kind of get a harder outside, and they maintain their shape. So here's the other thing that's a dead giveaway about soap, is that these little crumbs, I don't know if you could see, you can see these little crumbs, right? The crumbs sort of give it away. So, you know, water just makes all that go away. When I first started making soap, I was getting lots of soda ash, and I couldn't figure out why. And, you know, there's two things. Temperature can cause soda ash. Climate can cause soda ash. When it's humid, there's more water in the air, and I can't remember which way it is. Like, more water causes soda ash or keeps it down. I can't remember, but that's one part of it. And then it's just sodium carbonate that is affected. It turns into sodium carbonate when the lye gets affected by the air, and it's exposed. And so and fragrance oils, well, I didn't really get that fragrance oils can cause soda ash. Like, it just never occurred to me. See, I got a hole in that one. That one's no good. So I was getting a lot of soda ash, and so I started asking people in soap groups, like, how do they get rid of it? And a lot of people said they steamed it off. Well, steam's just water, you know, and so I was asked the other day about how do I get my soap so shiny. And one of the things I do is first of all, I want to make sure that all these little soap crumbs are gone. So if you see, let's see if you can see this. Where am I? Here we are. Oh, there we are. Okay. So that's kind of shiny. And then if I take just a little bit of water, it is going to be much shinier, right? Plus, you know, you have ridges on your fingers, so they sort of take all the surface layer off, kind of. And then I have it, as far as my samples go, to make them really shiny, I have a t-shirt material cloth that I sort of buff them with. And I'm going to show you another trick how to make things shiny. So it's starting with really good soap dough is helpful. That mica in there helps it be shiny because the mica catches the light. This is Twisted Berry, which is a beautiful color because it sort of has some iridescence in it. And I made a bunch of little hearts here, right here, to make toppers, like to make sprinkles too, but those have to dry a bit. So, yeah. So, and if you kind of run them between in your hands, you get some of those soap crumbs off. Okay, so let's get on with this. Get these all cleaned up. See, like here, you just kind of take that surface layer off. I'm not really sure how to explain that, but if you just run your fingers over it a bit, you can see how shiny they'll get. Yeah. There. Oops. Okay. Okay, so let's do some white and let's make the frosting. So, you know, I thought about this, and I'm like, those flooded the flooded cookies, you know what I'm talking about? You ever watch the people, cookie artists? Sweet Ams, she does that. Anyway, they teach Julia Usher, she does amazing cookies. She's also a very cool human. Anyway, they teach how to do very intricate soap or cookies, and I learn a lot from them. And one of the things I liked about that is like how shiny their frosting is. And I don't ever eat sugar. We don't have it in the house. The only thing I have sugar for is for like making sugar wax for hair removal, and I used to feed it to the hummingbirds, but I don't know how I feel about that anymore. So anyway, so I could see I got a little something right there. So I was wondering about that, and one of the things they do is they run a bead of frosting around the outside, and then they flood it and fill it, and it becomes very glossy, but it's also quite perfect, which I find interesting. And I thought, well, why would I bother making a whole bag of piped soap dough or piped soap to just make a handful of cookies? Like, I'm going to make a dozen of these cookies or so, right? So I thought, what else could I do? How else can I make these so that they look like a flooded top of a cookie, right? And so I decided I'm going to do this because that's what I do. I'd use soap dough. So, and I put it through plastic so it gives me nice smooth edges. Okay. So I got a little fuzz there. Let's get that guy out of there right away. See if I can get him out. I need a little bit of a sharper end. There we go. Okay. So we're going to put some water on here. Just a little bit. Center that. Smash it down. Did I get that out of there? There. I know you might not be able to see it, but I can. Okay. So that's good, but I want it better. So I'm going to, and you can feel it. It's breaking that surface level down. Okay. So now, of course, we're not going to share these all sprayed up with alcohol and how shiny they are. And I have to let that dry a bit before I can put water on to put my sprinkles on top, and I'm going to put some sprinkles, I'll show you. So that leads me to another thought. So if you look into what alcohol is actually made of, there's a bunch of chemicals. Well, not a bunch. There's some chemicals in there. There's the alcohol chemical, and I don't know what it is, just so you know. I can't rattle it off the top of my head, but there's what constitutes alcohol, we'll put it that way, and maybe I'll look it up and put it in here. And then there's water. So the higher the alcohol rate, like say 91%, the more alcohol is in it, like proper alcohol, not water alcohol, but alcohol. So, and if you've ever made cocktail, you know that alcohol floats. So if alcohol floats on water, then if you're going to use, if you want something to stick, right, you don't want that layer of alcohol in there, because alcohol isn't going to help. Water helps soap stick, but alcohol doesn't. And I know a lot of people are saying spray with alcohol because they came from the melt and pour world, and you're supposed to spray everything with alcohol. The only thing alcohol really does, well, it'll put a skin on your soap in short order if you spray too much of it, and it'll orange peel too if you spray it to a cold process soap too soon. But all alcohol does is really pop the bubbles in melt and pour. It doesn't help stuff stick, and that's a misperception for sure. That doesn't translate to soap dough. So soap dough is, you want things to stick, you use water. And in the same mentality as, like, you take 2 slivers of soap, and I've said this before, you try getting those apart after they've dried from, using in your shower, and it's virtually impossible. And so that's really what you want. You don't want that layer of something other, whatever the alcohol is. I'm sure there's a chemical name for it, and I'll have to look it up now. But you don't want the alcohol and the water, because it's given a mixed message. It's not exactly it might help it to stick, but you're going to have much more success if you just put water. So here we go. So you want this to be shiny, but you don't want brush strokes in it. So we'll fix that in a second. Okay, so I cut these out, these little guys. I'm going to put a couple of those on here. And I have to try and source another one of these plungers. This one's about to go, and this little tiny shape is, this is the tiniest one I've ever found, and I've had it for years. Okay, so there's that, and let's put a couple of these sprinkles on. I usually don't drop them on very specifically. I just, block, put enough on here. So I got a little pink ones in here. Do I want the pink one? Sure, I'll put a pink one in there. Not too much. And then a couple green. See, and I have a little soap crumb right there. That's no good. Flip him over. Okay. There. And I like them to overlap like that, but what will happen is you can pick it off pretty easily. So once this is set, once these little things have dried, that's what I mean by set. We don't want that one there. Then I'll put a little water on my finger, and here, I'll show you. Here's one. So I just put a little water on my finger, and I want to get all the fingerprints and everything off of it, and then give it a little spray and let it dry, and it'll be fine. So there you go. I hope that really helps. I hope it helps a lot, actually. I hope you learned something along the way, and that you kind of understand it a bit better. And it made your day just a little bit brighter, knowing you could have cookies in your life and you don't have to eat them. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.